Hey.
Hey.
We've got Isabel in the house. She says, playing around with Slater right now, excited for the stream. And hey to everyone who's joining. Coco's here. Hola, Coco. And Edgar Allan's in the mix. Who are they? Awesome. So we're trying out a new format today, guys. I hope that this is going to be a better experience because we've been using Riverside. We're now going to be using StreamYard, and hopefully everything is going to work seamlessly. But if it doesn't quite work out today, just so you know, we're trying to work out the kinks of the system. There's a few of the Edgar Allan team that are going to be showing some work. Nicola's in the mix. And that's why there's a few people on the screen. But if you guys have links to your artwork or you have problems with the code and you're watching live on YouTube, then feel free to put them in the chat, ask any questions and comments, and we'll get to them when we get to them. Jared, over to you.
Yeah, welcome everyone. So I wanted today to be a working session. So I'll do a little demo playing around with P5.js, and then we can all just start working on our individual art projects. I know some of the team members have been building some stuff, so we'll try to show it off as much as possible. If you've got something that's looking kind of cool, let us know, and we'd love to bring you into the chat and show it off. So again, like most of the time we'll be focused just around everybody building their own art project individually. So should be cool. Let me share my screen. Okay. Move this off to the side. Okay, so P5.js is pretty cool. It allows you to do a lot of interesting things. If you go into this p5js.org/examples, you can see all sorts of interesting examples of things you can do. So here we have a soft body. And maybe we'll play around with some of these. This coat curve looked kind of cool. We looked at this one just earlier. So you can build out these fractals. And you'll notice like we have this draw feature, which runs every, I don't know how often, but that allows you to get some of this animation going. Anyway, click around on these, find something that kind of makes you interested to do further, and we can see what we can do with them. I don't know what the controls are, so my snake's running into the edge. But this P5.js gives you a ton of functionality. It's fairly easy to use. It's even easier to use with Slater. So I have some stuff that I've already built, but let's start from scratch. So all I have here is, I'll refresh that. Oh. Let me log in. And I think it's here. Okay, so I've got a blank page. It's my JSEd/art, and you don't need to do anything with PS5. It will add the canvas. So I have this here, but I've just removed this canvas. If you're doing your own kind of custom JavaScript, you will need a canvas on the page, but with P5.js, it adds that for you. So all I have is, if I look in my external script, I've got this link to the P5.js library. And with that, let's clear this chat out. Let's do a small demo together. And then once we're done with this demo, let's start all working on our own art project. Come up with your own vision for it. Okay, so let me make this a little bigger so that you can see it. I'm just going to ask Slater to add an image. So let's try this. I'm using P5.js. I'd like to load an image. Oh shoot, I don't have my my image URL. Let me see if I can grab that real quick. This is my chat archive. So this is me playing around with it earlier. This is a little bit interesting because this is a Twitter image and it's serving up not even an actual JPEG. It's serving up this URL and with the parameters of it, the format being a JPEG and I guess it being a large size. I wasn't sure if this was going to work. A lot of times you need an actual JPEG in order to load it into whatever you're loading it into, but it did work. So I'm just going to take that URL and so I'm using P5.js. I'd like to load an image and do something with the pixels. So let's see what we get there. So we've updated the learn, the Slater response. So it's going to be typing this out. Once it's done with the response, we'll format that response. Let us know if this is better. It's a lot quicker than the initial implementation. So hopefully you like it. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this. I can also highlight everything and then just drag it on. And we don't need this, so let's move it out. Okay, so I've got an image variable, and then this preload is a function or a method related to P5.js. So before P5.js runs, we are going to go get this image. And then there's a setup method, and we'll create a canvas with image width and height. I'll want to update this, but let's see what we get. And we're going to load the image at, I believe, 0x and 0y. And then we'll load pixels. This allows us to do something with those pixels. So let's just see what we got here. Interesting. So this is my recent trip to the Grand Canyon, and they are doing, Slater did something with the pixels. Let's just skip out on this piece. And cool. So this is the image. It's going to load the entire image, height and width. And so what we can do is we can make the image the same height and width as the browser window. So let's do that. Can you make the canvas the height and width of the browser window? Yeah, it's interesting. It chose to invert the colors with this last implementation. Not exactly what I wanted to do, but let's take all of this. Still inverted it, and it didn't do anything to my height, it looks like. Okay, so window width, window height. Wonder why we could do something like let window width equal window dot inner height. Let's see, I can come right here and in the console, let's say window dot inner height. Cool. So I'm going to add that here. Oh man, I'm getting a little bit of a weird scrolling. Okay, so let's try window inner height and window inner width. And again, I don't care to change. Oh, look at resize canvas, window resize canvas. Yeah, Slater's not giving me great responses here because I imagine this is a method of P5JS, and so it's going to maybe not need the function written out, but let's just comment that out for now. Okay, so I think I got what I want. Nope. Interesting. So I would have guessed that this would set up the canvas. Let's take a look at our canvas here. So it's specifying the height of a width of 3,000 and a height of 2,300. This is me probably setting the 1612 and height of 1176. There might be some other code. I'm not sure why that's not giving me what I want, but let's move forward. And what I played around with yesterday, which I thought was pretty cool, so I want to change the pixels. So what I said is, can we randomly move the pixels up? Let's see, can we move the pixels up randomly up to 100 pixels?
Jared, can I just jump in and say that Jabez asked, why would you do this with P5 instead of setting the image as a position absolute?
Because of this, what we're doing right now. So with P5JS and loading the image through the P5JS library, we can now do whatever we want to do with the pixels. And so let's try this again, and let's see what we get. Interesting. So this is exactly the answer to that. It's kind of cool. I don't know exactly what's going on, so let's take a look at the code. But we are moving pixels randomly, and so I think this is like kind of an interesting piece of art in its own way. We're just getting started, but it's interesting. So let's take a look at this. So when we set up the project, we load the pixels, and once those pixels are loaded, we can go through and run a for loop. And so we start at 0 and I plus 4. So I'm guessing every 4 pixels we do something. So this pixel, this gets that 1 pixel, and yeah, so we're getting 4 different pixels. I don't know that we're doing anything with these. No, down here we are. So manipulate the pixel array, randomly move the pixel up 100 pixels. So here we have that random from -100 to 0, and the floor, so that's just going to say we're getting a whole number. And so the new index is I, which we get from here, offset, which is going to be a number from 0 to -100. The width, I'm not sure where width is coming from. I'm guessing with this create canvas, it generates a width for that. And then this time 4 is somewhat arbitrary, but let's play with this number, because when you have an equation like this, it's always fun to kind of play with it. And I always like to do it by a large number so you can actually see what's going on. So less cool in my mind. You probably see some of the noise that's being added to the picture. So I'm not exactly sure why. I'm just going to go down to 1 and see what we get. Yeah, so we're getting these bands somehow based on that equation. I actually liked our initial version the best. So we'll play around with that some more probably, but let's keep going down. So check if the new index is within 1E bounds of the pixel array. So new index, pixels.length. So here we have a new index. So when we do this load pixels, it looks like we get an array of all the pixels, which is kind of crazy because there's a lot of pixels in that image. It's a large image. And we just change the color, I guess, for each of those. And so that's why we're getting some of that noise. And then I guess the update pixels is taking all of these updates and just making sure that those are applied. Again, I'm not sure. This is probably not doing anything. It's probably like, it probably needs a, I don't know if I need to call it in here or something, but I'm not too concerned about that now.
Jared, can I ask something from the audience?
Please.
Jabir asked, damn, can you move also the pixels based on mouse position?
Yes, you can. Let's see if Slater's up for the challenge. This is great. Can we change the pixel color based on the user's mouse? I'm sure I should give it more instructions, but I'm going to just keep it broad because I don't even know what I want. And that's kind of one of the interesting things with AI generally. The better the instructions you can give, the better the response is from the AI. But a lot of times I don't know what I want exactly. And so just keeping it broad is potentially interesting. So let's just keep it broad and see what it comes back with. Some people call that creativity. So I'm going to remove this, paste this in, and let's see what we got. Something's happening. I don't love it. But yeah, if I'm not moving my mouse, nothing happens. And it's worth noting, like the performance on this is pretty poor because it is a giant image, and then we're updating specific pixels on that image. So with my computer already loading everything to do this live stream, plus all of these images, the performance is pretty poor. But so if I move, you'll notice that the dots come in. So don't love it. Let's
Jared,
take a look at the code.
On that note, I think this might be linked to Isabel's question. When I try open my website that I built using the Slater code, my phone freezes and won't load the site. Is that potentially linked to how big the images are in her artwork?
Yes, potentially. So Isabel, are you writing the code on your computer and just want to see what it's doing on the phone? Of course, the phone has less performance than your computer. So I'd probably recommend doing a lot of this on your computer, and then, yeah, once you have something, you can then move it over to your phone. Something we can do at the end of this is we can, if we're working with just static images, we can run a function to save that image as a JPEG or something, and then that image can be something that you can easily share. Let's look through this code real quick. So we're loading the image, creating the canvas, we're loading the pixels. This draw function, like I was saying, it runs every millisecond or something like that. And when it runs, we're getting the pixels with the different colors. D, calculate the distance between the current pixel and the mouse position. So I don't know what this dist is. It may be P5 JS dist. And it's always good to go to the reference. This will show us, yeah, it's going to give us that number based on the distance between the two things. Obviously, it doesn't seem to be that good at identifying, like that equation that it's using seems to be off by a couple hundred pixels. It's interesting how it's doing it twice. So let's jump back here. So it's going to be the mouse X, the mouse Y, I divided by 4. I forget what this is called, the operand or something like that of Witt. So this is just saying like every whatever, yeah, this is a weird number. Usually you can say this what is this called in JS? Modulus, that's what I was looking for. So it's going to give you like the remainder when you do division. So whoever's good at math can do the remainder from this calculation, which seems kind of weird. And I don't know why this one seems like a weird calculation as well. For some reason, it's picking 4 to do the math. And so if D, so this difference is less than 100, then we take the pixel, and again, we're using this modulus, which it's just going to get us a weird color, I guess. Or, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what this math is going to be doing, but we're applying it to those pixels. So it's kind of weird that it's going to be like this weird kind of oval shape that it's giving me. So I'm going to clear this out. Let's start over. Let me get this. All that said, this is where like experimentation is the name of the game. So I can keep experimenting, but I would hope that you're all doing something similar. And I would love to see anybody's projects if you get some cool result. So I'm interested in updating an image because I think it adds more diversity. Or if you go to like these examples, a lot of times it's just like a black background and then some sort of geometry. But I think it's really interesting to be able to work with pixels. You may or may not agree with me for today. So if you want to do a image-based one, you can follow along as I did earlier in the call. But if you find some other interesting P5JS example and you just want to riff off of that, like this soft body was pretty cool. So does anybody have anything interesting that they're playing around with? Nicole, I'm going to call on you because we were talking earlier, and he's got a pretty cool 3JS implementation. So I've been focused on P5JS, but let's just quickly take a look at what Nicole is doing with 3JS.
Okay, let me just quickly share my screen. So it's gonna be this one. So yeah, this is like result of 5-minute thing from yesterday. I wanted to see if we can make anything kind of usable. So this is what we get without any mouse movement. It's random fractals of color and shape, and on mouse movement it starts following the mouse. And yeah, I didn't
Nice.
experiment that much with it, but I could
It's
probably
pretty
spend
awesome.
hours looking into this.
So
It
show
was
us the code, and let's quickly walk through the code,
Mhm.
see what that looks like.
Okay.
So first off, I imagine you've added an external script to Three.js.
Yeah, so I went here and just added the script as external one.
Cool. So this is a little more complex than what we were doing with P5.js, but can you make your zoom in a bit on your
Mhm.
browser?
Oh,
Okay, so there's a bunch of things that are specific to Three.js, and I guess the way you do that, so you're creating new classes. I think that's what the new 3 means. And then you're running all of these methods off of those classes. And I mean, we did a pretty cool Three.js project here at Edgar Allen last year that you probably saw. But I personally didn't write any of that code. So I'm not that familiar with Three.js. It's quite complex and allows you to do really cool stuff. We were working with 3D objects. So yeah, it looks like there's a ton of functionality here. So this animate function, that's probably running, that request animation frame is going to run every single time your browser refreshes, which is like a millisecond or less. And you have that mouse move event, which is changing the shape's positions.
yeah, I've added the scroll, but scroll, I think it did not work. That was the last minute thing.
Yeah, so down at the bottom, you're calling this animate. Let's go back up to the animate function.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets called once, but then I think the request animation frame is going to call it again. And so this particular function is probably doing the bulk of the work. So it's running every millisecond, let's say, and we're running a loop. We're getting each of the shapes, and we're setting the X and Y for that based on the rotation speed, which I'm not sure what that would be exactly. And then we're re-rendering it with the scene and the camera. So I guess with Three.js, you have a scene, and then like you can move the camera around.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Nicola, can you put that in the chat, maybe, like the link, so we can have a little look at that? Because I think that's really cool.
No problem. Yeah, this one?
Yeah.
Okay, coming up.
And just to maybe ask like a question for people that aren't like intense coders, or maybe don't have a background of development, like, do you have a particular go-to library that you think people that are making artwork should be using? Or like, how do you guys choose which library to use? Is it dependent on the type of artwork that you're trying to make, or just your preference, or kind of how do the libraries work, and how do your choices influence that? That's an open question for Jared or Nicola.
I've played around with P5.js in the past. D3 is a really popular one for making charts. D3's been extremely complex, and I've done some things in it, and it's been hard. This was before AI was a thing. I would love to dig into D3 again. I did watch a tutorial as well as just using raw JavaScript, and there's some pretty cool things you can do. You just have to learn like these really weird methods or functionality that the browser or JavaScript specifically provides. And it's really hard to get to know all of those different methods or whatever they are, because it's not something you're using every day to build a website. It's like you have to be interested in the canvas, and then really digging into all the functionality that the canvas provides.
Nicola, what's your take on this?
I've just started on this, so yeah, yesterday I wanted to see what can I do between the meetings. This whole thing happened in 15 minutes or so yeah. But I'm more than happy to see where it takes us with different libraries and stuff, because I just saw that in examples of P5.js, there's a bunch of stuff also related to sound and manipulating sound. And I've already watched some videos of people making like tube screamers in JS with the help of ChatGPT. So yeah, hopefully maybe try to work on something like that with Slater.
That would be mad. Like you could have like rave music and artwork that's like going off the beat or something. That would be insane. Does anyone want to share any more projects? If anyone's watching, I see we've got a few people watching live on YouTube. If you guys are making artwork, share it in the chat. If you guys want to ask any questions, feel free to dive into the comments and ask Jared or Nicola anything.
Do you want to share my screen again? I'm just playing around with making updates. What I would like to see is my picture getting updated every second or something. And so I asked the AI, it came back and nothing seemed to be happening. And so I asked it, I reprompted it to rewrite the code. And let's see what happens. Getting a loader. So performance is a big issue when you're working with such a large image. So that is something to be thoughtful about, because this browser is having to like make updates to all of these different pixels, and so it can take a while. So it's done something. Like there's some noise that's going on. You may not be able to see that through the live stream, but let's take a quick look around this. So we set up everything, set frame rate to 1 frame per second. We load the pixels, and we load the image down here. What I don't think is happening, it might be updating, but I need it to have like a random integer in order to have a different result each time. So I think it's running every second or so, but it's not actually changing anything. So let's say, let's do this real quick. So just to see what's going on here, let's log something to the console. And what we should see is that it's getting logged to the console like every second. But again, it's loading too slowly. Maybe I could find a smaller image to work with. Let's go to my Twitter real quick. Let's just use this image. So it should be able to work with 400 pixel image a lot better.
By the way, while you're doing that, Jared, Nicola, are you entering the competition with that awesome bit of artwork? Because if so, I've got a thread on Twitter that I'm just adding everyone's artwork to. So, am I right to add that?
Yeah, of course. I'm not sure if I have right to be a part of that competition.
I mean, you've probably already got all the merch. You know, you've
Yeah.
probably already got the socks and the hoodie and whatever. But I just feel like people need to see what you're capable of doing in Slater, and I think your artwork's really cool. So I thought I just ask if I could share it. Okay.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. So you'll notice it's running every second or so, and my image is getting noisier and noisier by the second. So kind of interesting. It's not using a random number. I guess it's just using the eye to make these updates. Oh, here we go. There's a random. So let's change this. And I bet like if we make it big, it will change more quickly. Yep. So too big. Let's just try 50. So kind of cool just to be able to like manipulate the pixels kind of on a second by second basis, but not the most interesting. It's just adding noise. So I wonder what we could do to make it more interesting. One thing I think would be really cool, which I'm sure I won't be able to do during this call, but it'd be cool to take all of the images and then, all of the pixels and sort them by color. I've seen this before. I can't remember where I saw it, but it essentially just like ordered all of the colors. So I think it had the image and then it had rows of the different colors for that image. So that kind of stuff's cool. Another kind of cool idea that I'd love to play around with is taking some data source in order to update the picture. So you can imagine, I don't know, let's say the weather. So this image could be changed based on the weather somehow. And I don't know what I'd want to do exactly, but that's the kind of cool stuff that you can do to kind of update the image based on some external data source. So that's what I want to play with for the art project, that hopefully I can submit something by Friday.
One awesome bit of artwork that I think it was you or Witt made, Jared, was this like red. It had a red background, and then it looked kind of like a Star Warsy type triangular shape that just kept changing as you were as you kept watching. It was like a really dynamic image. Do you know the one I'm talking about? Do you still have that project?
It's somewhere, yes. How quickly can I find it is the question. Where have I shared that?
Because I actually tried to click the link, but it went to, I think you might have changed the project or deleted the code or something, because I couldn't.
Yeah, I definitely changed the code. As far as, I'm not sure if I've shared this externally beyond Twitter and kind of internally. This is a great article about early digital art. It can give you some inspiration. So here we have a diagram. This is similar to kind of what I think you're talking about, this oscillation. Like I was able to create something like this. I mean, this is awesome because it's like it's got that cool 70s blur and everything. But my code did something similar to this. And also these. But if we scroll down here, yeah, I think all of these are just really cool. And the idea of like having a printer make some cool art back in the 70s, or let's say the 60s even. I think it's pretty crazy. So down here, this is where I thought, oh, I could do something like this. So specifically, yes, drawing squares. I thought this one was really cool. And so this is the one that I tried to replicate. And so if you come back here, this is my version, and this is the original version. So what I did is I drew a square, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by, let's say 20. And then we looped through each of those squares and randomly skewed the rotation and increased the amplitude of that rotation all the way down to the bottom. So yeah, I love that piece from, what's his name, George Neese. The circle one's kind of cool. This is similar to like the first thing that I did. Is like, it's pretty easy to just randomly change pixels to white or black. His is kind of more interesting than anything I created, but I was able to create something like this. Mine looked essentially like QR codes. You know, this one's like, this stuff's pretty hard to do if you're drawing it, but the computer's really good at this kind of math. And so I'm sure you could get Slater to give you some cool waves. Yeah, with Slater too, and AI generally, I think the hard thing is to come up with inspiration, and implementing a lot of these ideas much easier now that we have the AI to help us through it. So just finding sources like this to kind of come up with ideas will go a long way. And if anybody has any cool links like this, please share them.
Isabel's got a really cool bit of artwork that I've just put in the chat, so maybe it'd be interesting to have a look at that. She says it crashes on mobile. It crashes on mobile a lot though, which she's trying to work out. So is it just because it's just such a complex bit of code that it's just too much?
I would guess that's the issue. I don't know how large these images are, but obviously you're posting that image X numbers of time and you're animating it. So
yeah, and it's draggable as well, she's just said.
Oh wow. Yeah,
that is mental.
I think we got a winner.
Yeah, who is Isabel? Is that your face?
Yeah, I mean, this is extremely hard on the browser, so I'm not totally surprised it's not able to run on a phone. Yeah, this is bizarre. It reminds me of like those Skittles commercials where they did really bizarre things.
Apparently, it's Vlad's face. So that's who we are looking at inside every single little pool.
Yeah, cool project, Isabel. Let's take a quick look at the code. I can look at this one here. Okay, so we've got all of these variables, and the mouse drag is, there's probably an event listener set up somewhere. Is this using P5 or is this something different?
Shall I just invite Isabel to this call? Maybe she could just come on and talk us through.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Isabel, are you cool if I do that, or are you just like, Jack, what the hell are you doing?
Okay, so it's a pretty small image. PNGs are much heavier than JPEGs, so if you wanted to optimize it, making it a JPEG would improve how well it performs. It does look like it's P5.js because we have the same method. So we preload, we have the setup. So we create the canvas, we set a background color. We're throwing in some text. So that was up here in this corner. Welcome to the world of Webflow. Nice. So we create orbs. So we're going to create 50 of them. So this is kind of fun because you could easily just make this 500, crash your browser, but have 500 of them. And then we're going to set an X, Y, and Z for each of them. Set the size, speed, and color for them. And then you're pushing them into this orbs array. And then this draw function is going to be running every second like we saw. Background staying the same, orbit control. I guess this allows you to do the drag and move.
Isabel's actually joined the stream, Jared, by the way.
Isabel.
Hello.
Hey.
Nice work.
Yeah, thank you. I only started playing around with it today. And I was saying to Jack, I don't know anything about code. I'm a graphic designer. So it was really fun to play around with and see what I can do with code, not having a developer background. But yeah, I mean, it works fine on desktop, but I just tried to open it up on my phone and it like restarted my phone. Like it turned off and turned back on again. The image is pretty small, but like you said, I don't know if it's because it's replicating the image so many times and it's like the functionality of the dragging. Maybe that's just too much for a phone. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would imagine you could make some updates for the phone. We need to look at P5.js's documentation, but there's probably different ways we could render this based on the screen size or something else. But yeah, maybe if it's a phone, instead of doing 50 orbs, maybe we do like 10 orbs. That would be beneficial. Potentially we could slow down this draw function and so that it's only running so often.
What is the draw function? Because I didn't know if that meant actually like you were able to draw like with your cursor. I don't actually know what that means.
Yeah, so this is going to be running. It's just rerunning that function so the draw function continuously executes lines of code contained inside its block until the program is stopped, or the no loop is called. I'm not sure like if it's every frame. So the number of times draw executes in each second, maybe control with the frame rate. So yeah, as far as performance, maybe this is something you could play around with. I bet if you asked Slater, it would help you optimize it. Making it a JPEG or a WP image would certainly help. Isabel, how much did you just let Slater kind of come up with an interpretation versus you had an idea in your head and you implemented that idea?
At first, I was just playing around with shapes. So I think my first thing was create some floating orbs across the page because I was thinking like cool mesh gradients with sort of 3D looking orbs. But then that created more of like a geometric type orb shape. And then I thought it kind of looked like a solar system. So then it gave me an idea to do like sort of the Webflow solar system and have like the different people's faces like on the planets. So yeah, I just sort of had a vague idea, and then as I went along, Slater sort of gave me more ideas, and I just kind of went with it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It was funny because it doesn't look 3D if you're just looking at it when the page starts, but as soon as you start moving it around, then you really get that 3D experience where. So it's
I wanted it to be like the sort of the Webflow community on Twitter, make that into sort of a 3D solar system type thing that you can navigate around.
Yeah,
I think maybe another thing is why the performance is a bit slow. So initially the background was black, but I wanted it to be the Webflow blue color. But when I changed the color of the background, when you dragged it, all the little orbs left like a trail. So what I had to do is put in some code. So every frame when you drag it, it continuously fills in the background color. if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's this. So the draw function, you're resetting the background. I know exactly what you're talking about. If you don't reset the background, then you get that point all the way through. That's interesting in that it shows like how it's actually working, and all the work it has to do to reposition each orb.
Yeah, so that might be another reason why it's it doesn't work on phone very well.
So there's a mouse press function. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. Check if mouse is over an orb. Let's see. Maybe it's but not critical. So the mouse drag, it's doing that piece. Mouse released, resets the dragging canvas. So here's probably what I was struggling with, is resizing the world. So if we, it doesn't resize on window resize, but it is getting the full width all the time.
So what I wanted to do is not have the orbs all as the same person, maybe have like 10 orbs, but all different people. I don't know how difficult that would be to do.
It shouldn't be too hard. What you would want to do is create an array of all the different URLs. And then on this preload, you would load all of those images. I don't know exactly how to do that, but I'm sure if you ask Slater to do that with an array of images, it would be able to handle that.
Yeah, I'm going to play around with it tonight and try to get it ready for the competition.
Cool. Yeah, but it's pretty cool how it takes that small 2D image and then it kind of creates like a 3D rendering of it. And so you're getting different pixels on that image based on the position of the camera. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks for taking a look. It's been fun to play around with.
Well, cool. Yeah, if you run into anything and need some additional guidance, let me know.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on, Jack. I've got to jump onto another meeting now, but yeah, thanks for taking a look.
Thanks for coming in such short notice and being good sport. Are you in the Slack group, Isabel, for Slater?
No, I'm not.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do right now. I'll send you an invite, and then you can, you can ask any questions and stuff in there, and people can troubleshoot with you if you want.
Perfect. Yeah, because I'm sure I'm going to have lots more questions. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Nice one. All right, cool.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Catch you later.
See ya.
Bye.
How about anyone else? Any other cool projects in the works?
So Martina has just put this in the chat, or she just sent me this. So maybe we can have a little look at this together.
Nice. Looks like it's is this a 3JS rendering as well, similar to what Nicola did? So here we have the 3JS code.
Marina, do you want to come on and talk to us about this? No pressure if you don't as well, but if you do, come on and have a
so there's quite a bit with 3JS, but nice. Yeah, it looks like we've got she's been able to play with the different colors, and it's fun. Like every time you refresh, you get kind of a cool new random result. Having it move with the mouse, that's probably something you could play with to keep it random, but not yeah, maybe playing around with like, let's see where the mouse moves. So we take this, and playing around with these would be fun. So you're taking the mouse X and Y and times it by 5. Instead of using this 5, maybe try like a random number. It could be interesting to see what different types of arrangements you could get. We're coming up on time. Any questions before we hop off? Did we lose Jack?
No, I'm still here. Sorry. Let me change the layout. There doesn't seem to be any more questions in the chat that we haven't already done. Just want to say that if anyone's watching or maybe after the fact, when the live stream ends, who hasn't got invited to the Slater Slack, it's a really useful place to troubleshoot stuff, be with people that are using Slater, and also if there's any feedback that you guys want to give on the product, or if you find bugs or anything, that's the place to give us that information. So send me a DM on Twitter, or actually send Slater_app a DM on Twitter, and I'll send you guys an invite for that. And if anyone hasn't got an invite code to Slater yet as well, also send me a message. If you guys are watching this and like, oh, I really want to make some cool artwork, then you can. That's my 2 cents.
Maybe we can take this last minute and show people how to sign up if they haven't already. Do you see my screen? Do you want to share that?
Yes.
Okay, let's move this out of the way. So if you go to Slater/users/signup, here we have the sign in or the sign up form. The code is going to be hang11 ! And just fill in your information. That will get you into Slater right away. So again, /users/signup. You can DM Slater_app and we'll send this over to you as well. But if you want to sign up right now and haven't already, there's that. So
awesome. And I've just put the Slack link in the chat as well. So just click that or DM me, whatever you want to do. Cool. Awesome job.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks loads. And we'll be doing the same again next week, but different topic. If you guys have any questions, go on Slack, ask them. But if you also want to bring them up and we do a live stream session like this, then obviously come along again next week. Thanks loads.
See ya.
Yes.